to Commercial Radio Worldwide, the mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. That's our philosophy. Our shows are based on the principle called the idea. We inform and entertain, develop and educate, empower and support, associate and network. That's the idea. My name is Sam Zimmer. I'm your anchor and moderator, and I'm waiting for colleagues to join us. Normally we have this show on Tuesdays, but today we brought it on the Monday due to some challenges in terms of calendars. I hope you are going to be with us up to the end, and those who are not able to be with us, of course, they can listen to this episode at our official podcast called Insights Online Podcast.com. The podcast is available here on Podbean. It can also be accessed at Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and all other popular podcasts platforms. We have started this series as part of our digital online streaming mastery show, the edition for the trainers that we want them to experience the real life situation. We didn't want to do it away from the public because this is a practitioner type of a program. And when you are practicing in real life situation as a trainer, it gives you that feel of being in a real training situation. We are today handling unit number 28, conduct number 23, titled Guest Reputation and Personal Brand. This is a follow-up to our session of last week where we looked at how do you determine if somebody is a subject matter expert. And if you want to listen to that podcast or episode of that show, you can go to insightsonlinepodcast.com here at Podbean, or you can also access it on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and most of the popular podcast platforms. Why we introduced this series, we felt that the conducts and the units themselves gives a lot to those who want to become involved in the streaming industry, one of the very fastest growing industries in the world. We believe that the industry is just started. We believe it's going to be very big. And we do believe that at some stage it will reach the professional level, and it will be very critical as somebody that is involved in the industry, particularly those who want to run their own channels, that you have insights into the do's and don'ts. We have been involved in the audio streaming and video streaming for a very long time, and we have accumulated experience. We want to believe that as we progress through the 40 units and the 35 conducts, we are slowly evolving and reaching the mastery level. And therefore, we are talking from experience, but we ourselves as well, we learn from each other, from our guests, and from you, the listeners. Let me welcome my colleague, co-anchor, Divesh Motilal, who has just joined us. As I had indicated earlier on, that we are a team, and some of them will be joining us late. Divesh, welcome to you. It's good to see you. I hope you're doing well.
Evening to you, Sam, and evening to the listeners. My name is Divesh Motilal, a resident DJ of Cometsa, as well as a graduate of the Cometsa's digital online streaming mastery program, of which gave birth to the modules that we are sharing as well today. And indeed, Sam, it's a growing industry. And as much as that opportunity presents itself to a larger audience, my interest really is for the youth, especially in South Africa, where you have this phenomena, they calling it needs, not interested in education, in employment or training. But it seems to be a worldwide trend, which is not
Mm.
necessarily a good trend. But because we've got a lot of youth interested in the online media, in particular that of streaming content, it's really important that we structure such a training program to be able to help those and help them chart their way into the future in terms of careers. Sam, thank you.
Very well said, indeed. I attended an event over the weekend at the Regenesis Business School here in Johannesburg. It was titled Industry Business Indaba, and the theme was transitioning from employment into entrepreneurship. I accepted to participate in that discussion because I believe it's very well positioned that we help people to transition into entrepreneurship because there are lots of opportunities, but it is also not an easy transition to make. But I'm convinced, Divesh, that if we really position the entrepreneurship very well within this digital online streaming industry, there's a lot of people who have got beautiful stories and talents that can actually not just become practitioners, but become entrepreneurs, and youth is in particular. So we need to support them because technology is their thing, but entrepreneurship and then also professionalism is something that we need to impart. And I think, as you have said, it is absolutely the reason why we are over and above having conducted the very first program where we were training ourselves. Now we are training ourselves as trainers so that we can take the lessons and the training further to cover as many people as possible. And that's why we're also producing these episodes in the form of podcasts. Yeah, so let me say some few opening remarks around the topic of having to look at the reputation of the guest that you might be inviting and also how we should be building our brands because we could be guests as well. So before we look at the guests from a personal branding point of view, we need to understand what we're talking about. Here we would like you to gauge the reputation of the guests effectively so that they can enhance the credibility of your show and the platform. Assuming that you have clearly defined the vision and mission of your channel and the objectives of your show are very well clear and the type of audience that you want to speak to are defined, and therefore you're trying to make sure that you attract the right kind of guests. In this information age, personal branding is definitely necessary for the success of any organization, even individual. We'll touch a little bit on the personal branding as well, and then relate it to professional branding. Many people are brands in their own right, but they are leading organizations which are also brands. But when you are out there in the public, sometimes it might not be able to separate, it might not be possible for you to separate yourself from your organization's brand. Therefore, it's very important that you are aware of your own personal brand, because failing to manage that personal brand can lead to misinformation about you or your company in the public's eye. So therefore, taking control of your public image is no longer an option, especially in this time and age of social media and technology and digital online streamings. So identifying and using the tools available to you to affect your personal brand will ensure the public to see the image you will want them to see. In other ways, you can't leave it to chances. You need to be intentional and decide on how you want to position yourself as a brand and that of your organization. So the positive brand is necessary for your success. You are in control of your brand if you choose to be. But if you choose not to be, somebody else will define it for you, and in that way you will not be in control. So when you then establish your brand, you must start with identifying your own self and defining who you are, what you stand for, what are your values that you stand for, and what passions drive you. And keeping in mind that perceptions in the public's eye is reality. So it is essential that you carefully cultivate your own image and the image of your organization. And in this case, the organization could be your channel. Meaning then, therefore, when you invite somebody, if their personal reputation and image is in contradiction with your own and that of your organization, you'll be very well advised not to perhaps to bring them into your program, into your show. That does not mean that you are being judgmental. You are just being careful and selective in terms of what kind of personalities you want to identify with, and you want them to be part of your program and of your organization. It is very easy to underestimate the importance of personal branding and avoid being actively participative in your brand. But the truth is that branding occurs whether you participate in its development or not. So if you do not take time to brand yourself, the market will therefore brand you, and it might not be in a favorable way. Customers, for instance, can bring negative attention to a company or individual, and attention can be escalated to what we will term the court of public opinion. And when it has happened, it might be very difficult to change that. There's always a very practical experience I use of performers in the public space, especially in sports. You know, a sports club, a particular football, which is the sport that I played, will bring a new star, a new performer into the field. And by the end of that first game, the fans will have given him a nickname. And in many cases, if he came without the nickname, it might be a shock. I remember the famous Kaiser Chiefs player, Neil Tovey, who was nicknamed Mugugu. Now, Mugugu is a crawl, a croc, you know, and because they said when he was so hardworking and he would be wet from his sweat, and they say he looked like a croc, and that's how he became known as Mugugu. And he couldn't shake off that name, but obviously he turned it into a beautiful name because that was appreciation of his hard work. That's just demonstrating to you that you can't be in the public space and ignore positioning yourself from a branding point of view. Let me hold it there. I've said a mouthful, and I'm sure my colleague Divesh has some remarks to make. And please feel free to also to drop us your views in the chat box. Divesh?
Thank you, Sam. When I think of the area of focus that we have been engaged in terms of online digital streaming and mastery, and this module being part of the 40 modules, I think of brand development, brand recognition, brand promotion as being that part of a value chain. And we need to also be cognizant of how we fit in that value chain and whether we want to be part of that specific value chain. What I mean by that is that your radio station, your channel that you're part of, they've got a brand recognition, they've got a value in terms of their brand that they promote. They've built it over years, they've built it through the activities that they have. And again, now you yourself, as the guest, will also be part of a value chain and a part of a brand. You have your own personal brand, but it's important that you, as a guest, make sure that you fit into that value chain. You cannot be coming with a brand which that does not align with that of the channel that you're going to be hosted on. As a host of the show, again, you're building your brand in terms of you as an anchor, as a host, and then you're also building the brand of your specific show. So, in terms of brand, for me, there's that value chain, which is very important. And it fits in very nicely in terms of the perspective you've shared that sometimes, even if you're doing nothing, you're still getting a brand attached to you through the value chain in which you are operating in, through the environment which you're operating in. So, your listeners as well also have an expectation in terms of the brand that you're representing, in terms of the radio station that you're representing, and that brand that they have, Sam.
Indeed, indeed. And as I was preparing for this session, I actually picked up quite a lot of insights, I must say, Divesh. And I realized that to a certain extent, I've been doing part of these things, and I felt good about it. But to some extent as well, there's quite a lot of interventions that we do that are not directed by that value chain that you are talking about. And I just feel that this is a very, very valuable unit, and maybe we need to drill down to say that explain why it's important to be intentional about it. When you look at yourself as an intro into the various themes we want to address, which speaks now to theme number one, defining yourself. Out of 10, where will you say you are in terms of positioning yourself as an authority or as a brand? And and up to this point, how intentionally you have been, Divesh? Maybe that will give the listeners some perspective, because I believe every listener after this, they need to go and revisit how they are actually taking care of their own identity.
Indeed, Sam. With my personal journey thus far in terms of developing a personal brand for myself, I would say that it stemmed from the career path I had chosen, the type of studies I went into. I'm an engineer by profession or by training. So already you pick up this persona of what an engineer is supposed to be like, but you then individualize it in based on your own personal experiences and the like. In relation to a online digital streaming mastery kind of platform, as part of my training when I was engaged on the digital online streaming program that Cometso offers, I was focused more on the space of leadership on the shows that I had hosted. And I didn't specifically limit it to a specific sector because, like myself, I am skilled in various areas: energy, business management, technology, artificial intelligence, etc. So, those were areas of my own experience. But I also then looked for experts in that space, which would complement my own leadership expertise and reputation that I've developed over the years. So it's a journey that you would go into, that you would also then build your experience. You would
Mm.
get people as well who don't necessarily embark from a point of educational background. But again, it's usually an area where you're actually good at something. You find some success in a specific area. Maybe you just have green fingers, if we could put it that way, as an example, where you're really just good. And I remember an example that George had made in another show of ours, where he met somebody who wasn't necessarily educated as you would normally regard, but was an expert in the space of agriculture. He would just, whatever he would touch with his green fingers would actually groom and grow and blossom. So again, your reputation is sometimes circumstantial, but from my own personal journey, it's been developed through an academic path that I take.
So, will you say that most of us are actually defined by what we do, our careers and jobs?
In a large sense, yes. But one thing that you had also mentioned in your opening remark is that the do's and don'ts, the skills that others who have gone through a specific journey can share to you, can also carve and shape how you develop as an individual, not necessarily from a branding perspective only, but your personality itself, which can then
Yeah.
be taken by you. And if you wanted to add value to your personality, that's a thing, that is where I think the branding aspect comes in. And when you're developing a brand, there is some value that you bring in, which can then,
Yeah.
in a space of online streaming, you could then turn that into some kind of career, turn that into some kind of revenue generation opportunity, Sam.
Personality, therefore, it is part of your personal brand. I mean, it makes sense to talk to people or to ourselves about a brand of an organization. But when it comes to a brand of a person, this is often put in the back burner. And those who are advocates of personal branding, even those consultants that specialize in personal branding, they are reminding us that some of us are in professions where who we are actually represent what we stand for, what we value, and what our passions are. And the aggregation of all those give us what we will call personal brand, even though we don't call it that. So if you say Sam Zimmer, if Sam Zimmer's brand is very strong out there, or let me use somebody else. Let's say Barack Obama. If you say Obama, people will say, are you talking about Barack? If you say Barack, people will say, are you talking about Obama? So am I right, therefore, to say that we can be intentional about what we stand for, either as personally and professionally, by actually working at the process of actually being mindful of how we show up, how we dress, how we speak, how we engage, because we want to achieve a particular outlook and a particular image out there to a point where it start defining how we live our life. Let me welcome Rabula, and if Rabula is comfortable, he can also comment on this, because I want to stay a little bit on this point of defining ourselves, but the point of being intentional about it, not just happen because we are successful in what we do, but we can say that, yes, I do this, but my intention is to package myself in such a way that contributes to how people perceive me. Rabula, welcome.
Okay. Hopefully you can hear
Are you
me.
with?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Sam. And I'm apologizing for late locking in or coming in. There are things that you can control, there are things you can control. Because in my mind, I had this thing on Tuesday. I don't know what happened today, but it's one of those little things.
Yes, my apologies. We brought it forward for some challenges, because of challenges in terms of diary, but that's why
No,
some of us.
it's fine. We are here, Sam. We need to take it forward. So, it's more to say, do you build a brand or do you build an image? Or are they interacting, interchanging? Because some define it as, if you want to build a brand, build an image. Image comes from the issue of, say, a trust. How do you differ from other people? How do I differ? How does Rabula differ from Sam? Then you connect the two together in terms of what type of audience are we speaking to, or are we interacting with, to make sure that we become effective in terms of this image or this brand. coming to the fore.
Or is it
I
an
like the
is it
I
an
like the
identity?
example. Yes, I like the example which Divesh mentioned in terms of saying sometimes even the image doesn't come from education; it comes from consistent in what you're doing or in what you perceive to be doing all the times. So we start putting you into one basket. This brand belongs to this person
But
because he acts
how many
and
such
behaves.
how many such popular images out there are as a result of what people are doing and gifted in, or how many are as a result of the work that those people put on to position to uplift that brand? That is really the question.
It's a challenge. Unfortunately, part of it, majority of those people are politicians. I don't know why.
Let's take musicians then. Let's take musicians and sportsmen. I mean,
And a sportsman,
I know, for instance, sorry for, I hope you don't mind if we exchange because this is
no,
very,
no, I don't. No, I don't.
I know very well that Ronaldo is very popular sportsman, but Ronaldo does
Exactly.
a lot of work to escalate and reach his brand. If he wasn't doing those posting in the Instagram and he doesn't have his professional, he didn't have professional people who have nothing
Mm,
to do with football and they are not
mm,
even involving in the club he plays for, but they're involving on the brand Ronaldo.
mm. No, they
That
wouldn't
means
have
he's
known about
very
it.
intentional about the brand he is now, which is more than
Yeah.
just football. Am I right?
Yeah. Yes, you are right. We wouldn't have known about it because that's why you go back, talent is not enough.
Mm.
Yeah. Ronaldo's got a talent. But
Yeah.
because he's surrounded by expertise to make sure that talent bring revenue in front of him. That's why the brand becomes and the image becomes so successful.
You can even say football is not is not the only thing you're about. Now we are going to make you a
Exactly.
star.
Exactly, yes.
I mean, 250 million followers,
Mm.
which is the result of that intentionality of building the brand Ronaldo. When he was
Yeah.
opening the 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 event, the UEFA event this week where they
Mm.
were scheduling the games, he
Mm.
mentioned something that caught my eye. They said, "Do you still have enough space in your cabinet for this
Trophies.
award?" He said, "Of
Mm.
course, yes, at my museum in Madeira. Please visit it." I said, "Wow, this is somebody who's very intentional. That is more than just football, Divesh."
The next moment is because talent is not now. The people surrounding him brought the concept of museum in front of him, and he took it up.
So
So
he
what he
was
does now,
intentional about it.
it was intentional. That what this does now, the museum start creating revenue for the country because people start paying visit to Portugal to go look at Ronaldo's museum, and when they go
Yeah,
there, there's a job creation.
yeah, Divesh.
Yes, Sam, that leads in very nicely to what we mentioned earlier in terms of the brand value chain. Yes, Ronaldo started out, he was having talent in terms of uh, playing football. Somebody in the village recognized his skill. They start talking about him. He gets an opportunity to showcase his skill to a professional football team, and then it grows from there. But like also what Rapula is saying, talent isn't enough. I mean, he could have carried on playing football and he would have been a successful football player. But in terms of the opportunity, the value chain that could grow from that to turn his personality, grow the number of followers, then add on to that value chain, and then being able to merchandise and generate additional revenue streams. Yes, of course, he has to, as we also said earlier on, you as the guest, you as the host, you got to decide whether you are part of that value chain or it's not for you. You need to join a different value chain, and they're not all necessarily the same. And
Mm.
indeed, you start to say, okay, I can't play football anymore. I'm gone too old. My feet aren't as nimble as they used to be. but I still have this brand. So what can I do with the brand? I can still generate revenue. I can still do good for the country, put up a museum, put up sports academies, etc. In relation to the example that of Ronaldo. But again, we're saying it's a value chain that you create. You're part of that value chain. You got to make sure that you attest to the other brands, the brand of the station, the brand of the host, as well as the brand of the guest. They all have to be in a tune with each other. So at the end of the day, your listeners get what they are expecting, and you will always meet the expectations of the listeners because they are testing to the brand that you are selling.
Like Ronaldo will make sure that he is promoting his personal brand does not contradict with the brand of the football he plays for, the Portugal national team, the UEFA that always invite him, and the association that he plays under. So there's intentionality there, and there is coexistence of brands. That's what you are saying, Divesh.
Yes, indeed. And I would even say that in terms of his personality, his values, he will
Yeah,
attach those to his brand. For example, maybe abuse issues or respect for elders or anti racism values that he may have. He will then promote those, and that will then come back as part of his brand. That Ronaldo is not a racist person, for example. So
yeah,
it's a ecosystem that tends to develop
mm,
once you start growing this value chain in terms of a brand value chain. It will then
mm,
grow. I mean, if you can be as popular as Ronaldo and other social media in the space of online uh, um, um, or online digital streaming, we've got a myriad of very popular, very successful online personalities, social media personalities. So these brands that we talk about. I mean, me on a personal level, there's certain brands in terms of social media, um, you know, kings that they are. If
mm,
they decide one morning they wake up, they say they want to sell chocolate or an energy drink, they just put their name on it and it's instantly viral.
yeah,
And it may not be even part of the value chain in terms of a brand, but then the name just can go on anything. But me personally as well, I wouldn't think that that person is really doing themselves justice because they could be selling, just using the brand and abusing the people that
mm,
follow them by
mm,
by by selling products all of a sudden, which
mm,
is not necessarily part of their value chains. So
mm, mm. But definitely, we're acknowledging that there's a brand power there. You can use it for many things, but there is still responsibility to manage that brand, and that's why such special people like Ronaldo will appoint brand managers who will take care of their brand. So he has become one brand, personal and professional, which is actually one topic we'll talk about later on. It seems to be saying that we seem to be saying that the beginning of a brand, personal and professional brand, is you defining yourself as stated that you need to know your strengths and weaknesses. You need to be aware of the values that you live by, the passions that drive you, and then of course be consistent and clear about what brand positioning you want to make, and be constant all the time. So we are here as anchors, we are here as co-hosts and as hosts, and somebody could be here as a guest. And if that is who we are and this is our talent, as Rabula was saying, talent is not enough. So we could be saying that it doesn't end here. We need to start now packaging this talent to a point that it is that a brand that many people want to be associated with. And this is what we are looking for. It looks like we're setting the standard high, but what is the minimum we will look at when we are going to be wanting somebody to come onto our show if we want to be compliant with this topic or this conduct and this unit in terms of reputation and a brand of a person. How far can we go? Because otherwise we might go too far and find nobody.
I think, Sam, when you're building a brand from scratch or from the beginning, it's more to say that this is our goal, or this is a goal of the brand you're building. So you do things slowly but systematically in terms of saying, am I going to get a clean fish, or I'm going to have a fish which has got some small dent, which is little bit hidden, where it can be done later on. I can say, no, I'm not associated with. The same goes to some of the corporate South Africa. When you come to individual sport, they are not willing to sponsor. When you ask them why, I said, no, individuals change very shortly. You may find that the same person may be caught up in it, breaking the law. It's imaging, it's tainting our brand as a corporate South Africa. So they start saying, stay away from individual sponsorship. But Americans do get individual sponsorship. They don't even look in that scenario. Immediately something goes wrong, they cut it short and they forget about you. I'm not sure why in our instance. I'm not sure why in our instances it's not. I won't say similar to that, but very close to that. That's why our individual sports. It's very difficult to play individual sports because you don't have sponsors due to the brand.
But there's a reason for that, Rapula. Thank you for bringing that American example. The reason why Americans sponsor individual sport is because there is an intentionality in the American sports fraternity, especially college sports, where once people graduate from college sports, by the time they go into professional sports, they are so popular that they command so much following. And as a result, by the time they leave, transition from college sports into professional sports, they've already been picked up by sports agents. So there's no way you can ignore Serena Williams, right? There's no way you can ignore who's this guy who's playing basketball. So I think, yes, it's very risky, but for as long as nothing happens, the popularity that particular brand gets is quite amazing. O.J. Simpson, for instance, at some stage, he was like and I think it was Nike that was sponsoring him, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
And then the moment it was involved in that case, they pulled out immediately, and then they do damage control from the brand point of view.
Yes. You're right.
So if we were to have such sport agents in our South African setup with so much talent that we have, you'll see corporate feeling comfortable that they have got their agents that will look after them and coach them, that we can take a risk. But you are right; it's a huge risk.
So that's why you may find that individuals in American sports they succeed faster and make quick bucks than individuals South African sports because of that. Yeah,
that's exactly the point we are implying here, to say that there are those who will become good brand not because they did anything, they just happen to become great. But there are those like us in business. If we want to, if people consume us as coaches and mentors, as anchors and moderators and guests of shows, we cannot take chances that we are and hope that we are just going to evolve. We need to be aware of the fact that we must be doing something that contributes to building our brand. Watch what we do out there so that we don't mess up our brand, both professional and personal. Let me put it back to you, then you, Divesh and Rapula, and say, in hindsight now, are there activities that you are involved in the media, in the public, that you can now, in hindsight, classify them as activities that contribute to building your brand? And will you go and do it differently now that we brought it up and be intentional about it? Or you are comfortable with just continuing doing your job and hoping that people like it and then you become popular as a brand?
from my side, Sam, I think I started being intentional about the brand. I think the beginning of this year, when immediately after I put my website on, I increase the posting on LinkedIn and Facebook about what work do we do every second week with the entrepreneurs, different topics. I was very intentional without driving until I take the break, I think a month ago. Now I'm intending to restart it again to make sure that I become intentional on it to say this brand does mentoring and coaching for entrepreneurs, specifically in rural areas, because rural areas, that's where you need
Which brand are you talking about now? Is it brand Rapula or is it Retlalifile? Or is it
the
both?
brand, the brand Talifile, but driven by brand Rapula.
So you're driving both. You are
Yes, I'm
aligning them.
driving both. Yeah.
Divesh, thanks Rapula.
Well, in my situation, I've got both as well, but I spend more time on my personal brand in terms of expertise rather than on the small company that I also have with regards to training. And again, it's different platforms which get focus in terms of my personal brand. That in hindsight, or more focus is placed on LinkedIn, because again, like-minded opportunities, the professionals that's there, the various sectors which I have expertise in, you would find similar personalities, similar brands in that platform. And again, as I interact with the various brands, spread the amount of followers or the reach that I have, more interactive sessions that I have with people that could extend my value chain in terms of brand value chain. We engage on those ones. And again, when we see someone who posts, for example, Kometsa posts a message on LinkedIn, I can attest to what they are proposing in terms of brand value. I share that into my own network, add a bit of messaging in it to give some context, but then to also then not only boost my own personal brand, but then also extend the value chain of the brand that Kometsa brings. So that's my approach, Sam, in terms of exposure, in terms of brand development and reputation building.
Yeah. So that is what we will call diverse brand association, which is really great, and I do acknowledge that it's and I've seen it how often and how consistent you do that, which is one of the points they are addressing that you can't. I hope we do encourage you more so, Rabula, that you shouldn't have taken break for whatever reasons. It should be consistent, and that's why some people even hire brand ambassadors. But of course, it's very costly.
Sam, I realized that,
Wonderful.
but I realized that, and I'm working behind the scenes to get this sorted out.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And before we continue, let me welcome Franz Ramutla. Welcome, Dr. Ramutla. We're happy to see you on being able to join us. I hope you got to understand where we are with the topic.
I just managed to log in, but I think I'll follow up. I'm happy to be with you, all my colleagues and all the listeners. So I'll participate as the show continues.
Thank you very much. The next point is
In terms of check-in,
yes, Dr. Ramutla.
yeah,
Yes, you want to check in.
Yes, I wanted to check in. Yeah, we are talking about brand here. I think in my company we are building products that very soon will be contributing to my brand. Today we started a new product called Chromodec Doors. They are famous about their durability, their aesthetic appeal. They are lightweight and strong. They are energy efficiency. And very soon we will be putting them on the market, and they contribute to the brand, to Marco brand that we are busy building. Thank you very much.
Sure, sure, absolutely. Sometimes the services and the products that you offer, they are so much appealing and so strong that actually they grow in popularity faster than the brand. And then people start to say that that is the brand that is produced by so and so. If you think of the story of Colgate and all those products, Unilever products, Omo, you know. I was actually laughing yesterday. There is a very famous brand called Dettol. And sometimes we just see Dettol. And now there's a Dettol cleaning. And the other day I almost bought a floor cleaning Dettol, thinking that is the Dettol that I know. So there's a need to balance the products and the corporate image and also the brand association. So that's a good insight there, and Ramutla. And then of course here we talk about controlling and developing your image, and I think that speaks to the point I raised that there's a lot of many brands in terms of personal brands that just evolve because of what people do. But there's also an evidence, as we have shared the story of Ronaldo, that you can actually be evident. You can be very intentional about your brand and do something more than just what you do. And I think if you see what David Beckham did with his brand when he retired, I mean nobody will forget about him because of what he used that brand to do. It's that controlling and developing of that image. And I believe very strongly that so many people in our country that if they can become intentional about taking care of their brand, they could actually even make more money outside what they do out there by just being taking care of their brand. They clearly defining what your brand stands for, and make sure that you consistently remind people who you are. And then, of course, being consistent in terms of the image that you project, and that's why the brand or the logo of your organization, it's very, very important that it always stands behind. In case of persons, the logo is your photo on social media. And of course, if you have Rekhalefile like Rapula has, or we have Comesa, then there's a logo of Comesa that goes with it, the coloring that goes with it, and how you use it. But it takes a commitment, and you have to live it every day. And now there is more opportunities now for brands that are people that can save transition very many people into opportunities that they never would have thought of. Take of this young man that brought us gold from Olympics. If somebody can grab the opportunity now and really manage them, they could grow into big brands for as long as they continue in the sports. But even ourselves, our careers and our professions, if packaged very well, and in this case, I'm talking to what we are doing now as co-hosts, as anchors of the shows, as DJs. It depends on us as to where we want to take it to. And it depends on us being intentional about it, getting professional help, make sure that the posting, the bloggings we do speak to some values that we stand for, rather than just it there and hope that magic will happen. And I think social media is one area that we need to be conscious of. And I think somewhere here we are warning that be careful that you don't just post anyhow. Be careful that what your stories you post, they stay there forever and they're associated with you. And next time when you want to be seen in a different way, people go back and remind you of how you actually used to be. Because you were not intentional then, at some stage you wish you did not post the type of posts you put forward. Any reflection there? And I think that speaks to the social media and personal branding.
Do you know, Sam, sometimes when you grow up, I use the word activist, and they capture you on a photo, on a video, they hide it somewhere else. One day you come in as a professional, they pull up that. Do you know what damage does it does? So one example which person can keep at is recently you had came out of the elections. There were two politicians from DA which were posting racist statements at the time. So all of a sudden they're coming as a parliamentarian, and that thing come and sort of expose them, and that immediately tells you social media is there permanently. Be careful on what you post, and when you are angry and upset, stay away from social media.
Indeed. Actually, this concept of personal media Divesh, I'll give you an opportunity to reflect on that as well. It's that's why managing a personal brand is the most difficult thing. And then if you then want to integrate it with your corporate or professional brand, is even more so. Because if you happen to be Rapula, who's now the chairman of the Recalifile, and then you think that you over the weekend somewhere in a wedding, in a party, you can do things and the people will not know because you are now off duty. Unfortunately, that is an illusion because because of social media, and then they start saying, but that is Rapula, that is the chairman of Recalifile. And that's when the integration work against you. So that's why they say that you need to manage, you need to control. Divesh, before you forget your trail of thought, over to you.
No, thank you, Sam. I just wanted to reflect in terms of how we're putting these do's and don'ts into practice. Every show, every show, not necessarily just on this set of shows in terms of digital online streaming program. Cometsa, we start off in terms of identifying what unique qualities Cometsa has as a brand. We share that in the beginning of our shows. We then also articulate our values and in terms of the mission that we want to achieve for Cometsa. As we introduce then the digital online streaming program, and then we also then come into the module of the day. So that's the value chain in terms of brand positioning that we are also illustrating year to day, but we also putting that into practice as our listeners will pick up when they listen to our various shows. We do come out with our unique qualities that Cometsa has as a brand, and then we also articulate our values, the mission that we're trying to achieve, which then leads into the content that we actually put out to the listeners.
So it's a journey.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, as you also, a lot of the elements that you would find when you talk about traditional marketing, they also do find their place when we talk about building your brand, promoting your brand, developing your brand in relation to your online streaming journey as well, Sam.
Beautiful. Thanks for that reflection. Indeed. And that's why I say that when I was preparing for these conversations, I realized there's quite a number of things that we have been doing. We haven't just been calling them brand building, but I'm so glad to find out that actually that is it. I mean, the entire content marketing that we do, and Rabula, I think that's what you do as well, which is not selling, but is sharing knowledge with your audience and your followers. That is positioning yourself as a brand. And in many cases, people think that you set and say, I want Recalifile to be posting every day, 1, 2, 3. And there are those who say, they post pictures or they'll post jokes or whatever. But the question is that following a particular strategy? I think that's the question we are answering. And then we are saying that these things build over time. And some of the things that we did, not knowing that we are building an image of our own, they contradict with what we ultimately will become and we want to become. And when we are reminded of it, and we regret that we had not done that. And I think it's wonderful, as Divesh was saying earlier on, that this is the opportunity for young people to consider going into entrepreneurship in streaming. And therefore, these do's and don'ts become very helpful because this is the foundation. This is the baseline. If they get the baseline wrong, it might make it difficult for them in the future to actually fly, because it will be heavy on them for whatever it was then when it was put forward. And therefore, I like the idea of controlling and developing your image. And then, of course, the idea of your personal brand could become a professional brand. I mean, there are some people whose businesses is named after them because of the popularity of their names. And there are people that the brand association of their names and the businesses they have established is so strong that you see them, you see their businesses. And I was telling somebody that because I started my career in the corporate, it took me a very long time, and I suffered from that because people wouldn't recognize Cometa because the brand Sam Zima in the human capital space was so entrenched, so deeply entrenched that, but if you say Sam, they say, oh, okay, we know Sam Zima. But if you say Cometa, they say, what is that? So one has to be cognizant of that fact that if you one day want to establish your own company, and then you have a very strong personal brand, it might be very difficult unless you call your company after your name. But then if you call your company after your name, somebody else who's also called Rapula somewhere or Rapulivani somewhere does something that's not right, they say, oh, how is he related to Mulivani Rapula? So it's a very dicey situation, and somebody has to be thinking about that. And for that reason, as an example as well, why in a certain way I sneak the name Sam Zima into Cometa. Those who know what Cometa stands for, you will find it there. That is Consulting Methods by Sam Zima. That's what Cometa stands for. But I don't go around telling people that is the name. Because I wanted the association between Sam Zima and Cometa, and at some future state, then those who are interested in the history of the identity of the name of the organization, then they can find it in the history, and then they will have an aha moment of, wow, oh, we didn't know that. And that's exactly what happened at my former company, ABSA, which started as Amalgamated Bankers of South Africa. It is there in the CIPC. That's what ABSA stands for. But they don't pronounce it that way because they wanted ABSA, ABSA, to be the identity, and does it. So there is power in being intentional about the identity we give to ourselves, identity we give to our companies, like that Ramutla having Chumago, which is an abbreviation of his name and the name of his partner. So we are actually saying we can create entrepreneurs as speakers, motivational speakers, coaches, anchors, and moderators of shows. But once they decide to convert this function that they do into an enterprise, it's very important that they are intentional about how they are going to brand it. I think that is what this theme of personal and professional influences speak, where they say that corporate and personal integration is important because they will influence each other. If your company does very well, they say, oh, that's Mr. Ramuta's company. But if Ramuta is caught doing something untoward, they said, oh, that man that of Chumaku. So that is very important that we are conscious about it, especially as the company becomes bigger and more popular. And then, of course, we need to be professional about it. And there is many things we can talk about what being professional means. And one way to also start building that presence is building rapport. Maybe let's sit and let's reflect a bit on the last 2 points. Being professional, and then, of course, building rapport as contributors to our personal and professional influence, professional brand. In relation to the do's and don'ts that we have been preaching, we have been sharing week in and week out. Divesh?
I think, Sam, one way of being able to determine the level of professionalism that's expected by your audience. I mean, you can articulate it and have guides for yourself, but at the end of the day, it's your audience who has to give you that feedback that you need, because how they perceive you to be is that unfortunately the way that it will move in terms of a brand that you're developing. Otherwise, you might as well just sit in your corner and not worry about the audience and a brand, because you'll be content with yourself. In terms of being able to get that feedback, you would have to obviously use things like the tools that platforms have in terms of analytics to see what is the feedback that your audience is getting. Are
Yeah.
you as professional as you think you are? Do you need to tone it down a bit in terms of maybe the technical aspects that you're sharing with your audience? Or maybe it's not enough. You got to have those things in place where you have to monitor and then adapt in terms of what your expectations from the audience perspective is. And again, it's important that whatever levels of professionalism that you are trying to put out, you remain consistent across the platforms that you're utilizing. And every time when you're giving um, uh, your updates in terms of shows, in terms of messaging about your shows, you must definitely keep those things consistent and regular as possible, as you had outlined with regards to the conversation or point that you'd raised with Rapula.
Mm, mm. And the challenge which I can share with you is a frustration for me as well, is that we are spread thinly in the things we do, and we don't have resources to really follow up on the activation that we start. I mean, this type of show that we run and the type of things we do, if one has resources and have a specialist business ambassadors whose job is actually to follow through, you will find that the curve was growing up and then it dropped down because there was no engagement and there was no follow up and there's no surveys to get feedback. And I think that is in terms of SWOT analysis that we talked about earlier on. I have long established, and I think Rapula did mention that at some stage as well. So we need to also to be aware of our limitations and then be aware of ideal state and the current state where we are. And the question is, for how long will you operate below the ideal state? And are you planning to get to a point where at some stage, hopefully, you can engage professional survey or research organizations or business ambassadors on a full-time or on a part-time basis to help you extract the value that you are creating. Any reflection there? That's my frustration, and that's I'm owning up to say that I know that we create so much, but we don't have capacity to actually follow through.
Reflection from myself. I can attest to your sentiment. I myself go through the same kind of a journey that we are both in, where we're trying to do too much. The resources becomes limited. The most important one is that there's only so much time in the day for you to do the myriad of things that you want to do. But my drive is still to say, listen, the old adage of Rome wasn't built in a day. You got to take your little bits, you got to do your planning as best as possible. Unfortunately, certain tasks, maybe they're paying the bills. You need to get them done, and you prioritize sometimes not in the way that your passion would allow it to be. But the other adage as well that they say is, if you're doing something passionate, then you'll never work a day in your life. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something that, every human being should one day aspire towards. Because that's at the end of the day, if you're passionate about what you're doing, you're rarely going to be adding in terms of that value chain, that brand that we're talking about. And if you can develop a brand where it's successful in terms of many people aspiring towards your brand, then you can actually make a living of it. You can be finding a level of comfort, a level of happiness, completeness that you would in life. And that is really what this brand building that we're talking about is about, to really build something that can even allow you to sail into the future, where your brand even can become so powerful that you could be sitting at home, but your brand is busy out there working for you, Sam.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Rabula?
So, Sam, you raised something very, very interesting, and actually, it's impacting, in my opinion, all entrepreneurs. We keep on working our health to the nuts because we are chasing what we believe is sustainability at the detriment of our health.
Because we only have so much capacity.
Exactly. And every time you sit in front of entrepreneurs, you advise entrepreneurs about outsourcing some of the functions. And one of them is administration. On the other hand, you are a little bit wary on outsourcing administration because of the brand Cometa.
Yes. 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 Or you are wary of the fixed costs that some months you might not have enough revenue to cover them, and you are in trouble.
Then your building, your reputation is in trouble. So you end up in a fix of saying, what is an ideal fix? We as entrepreneurs, can we build what you call it a collaboration? I'm an entrepreneur. For the first 6 months of the year, I'm okay. I'm getting all my invoices on time every month. All of a sudden, nothing comes out for the next coming 6 months. You, as my collaborator, who's doing my administration, will you carry on continue doing it, knowing that in the months which I'm heavy, I can pay you in advance to say that I'm looking forward to make sure that the brand Retalifil is still continuing without doing anything else? It's a matter of saying, how do we think outside the box to maintain the brand and make sure that we manage the risk goes with the brand?
Yeah.
One example which I'll give, and I was shocked to learn about it. I think last weekend we were burying my cousin, who's in the family. She used to be my confidant. And at the funeral, the service started at 7 o'clock. 9 o'clock, we're heading to the graveyard. And when we came back from the graveyard, the guys were sitting outside. They called me and they said to me, in a township, the funeral service is right on time. It's a miracle. And one of the young guys came to me, oh, my uncle was there. And no, when he's there, things goes in time. And I said, who's your uncle? I said, this you. I said, why do you say that? And he started giving me examples of past funerals and the past functions where I was involved. They start on time and they end on time. And I was not aware. That is what you call reputation of the brand you're building in. It's a brand which you're built within the family, which I'm not aware of. I said, guys, let us, if you say people are 7 o'clock, let's do 7 o'clock. Don't go beyond that. Don't go even after it. Only to find that at the back of their mind, they'll normally ask the question, is this a funeral? Yes. Is Rabula involved? No. I will come to the graveyard at 11 o'clock. We won't be finished by that time.
Yeah. So those are the values that you stand for. That's professionalism that we're talking about. And those are the metrics we can use, because when it comes to personal brand, it has to be your attributes that actually build in your personality that contributes to that brand. And I think being conscious of it, it's very, very important. But now taking it to another level, professional level, we are acknowledging that we have a challenge. And I think it's sufficient to note it, but hopefully work towards resolving it. As I mentioned, the idea of the business ambassador, brand ambassador, you name it. Those are the things that we need to be cognizant of it. Sometimes things don't get resolved because we can't label them and we can't name them. The fact that we are able to label and name them it makes us aware and conscious on a daily basis that we need to resolve them. And I think, again, coming to this field of hosting shows and being an anchor and guest, we are saying that if people want to come into this business, as we discussed last week, they need to understand that there's a certain level of professionalism and commitment that you need to understand, keep in mind. You need to be consistent, you need to be regular, you need to be good at time management, you need to work hard, you need to make sure that you produce quality, and you need to make sure that you read and you research and you know the subject that you are invited to come into the studio to talk about. So all those things are attributes that contribute to your personal brand. But then if you want the personal brand to work for you, as Rapula has said, there are certain things you have to do, unfortunately, to spice the brand up a bit. And we're talking about things like the quality here, sharpening your brand. You know, blogging is one thing that they very much advocate, that it's a very good way of actually sharpening your brand. And then I was looking at some of the recommendations they were making here, that by making a blog and being consistent, you are actually influencing your audience, and you are actually becoming an authority, and that contributes massively to your brand, sharpening of your brand. We talk about posting, Divesh, and that's why I told the entrepreneurs over the weekend that I don't blog, I don't sell on social media. I do content marketing, but you'll be amazed how some of the leads come from that. So people appreciate the fact that you are generous with knowledge, and ultimately then they look at engaging with you. So this posting we're doing on social media, whether you get 20 people commenting or you get 50 or get 10, as long as you are consistent, you are building the reputation of being always in the social media space. You must not visit it. You must live in it. And they say the best way to do it, have that consistency. Don't overcommit, because when you overcommit, then it becomes a burden. But a minimum of post a week is really sustainable. But you must make sure that you really, as they say here, content is king. You don't post when you don't have anything to post. But a week is sufficient for you if you are consistently reflecting, if you are consistently reading, you are observant, you will have something to post that speaks to the things that you value much, that contributes to our brand. The other way of sharpening your brand is being authentic with what you do. And authenticity is very critical. You know, regardless of how you choose to portray your brand, you're going to, the key is your authenticity. How authentic is your brand? You can't fake it, because people are becoming more savvier at identifying it, and they are drawn to it. If you are authentic, people will be attracted to you. And there are things that you can do, and the three components of authenticity is honesty, promoting good causes, which is what we are doing with this show, because we are sharing knowledge that many people invoice for it. But we are contributing to the bigger community, hoping that we will contribute to the building of the industry. So that is promoting a good cause, and of course showing consistency. And we've got to be proud of ourselves that on a weekly basis, we are in the studio here, and we are addressing these 40 units. We are already at 28 units. I mean, since unit 1, and we are marching towards unit 40. That's consistency. And that somehow, those who visit our podcast, they never get disappointed. Every week there is an additional unit that gets launched. So that is one thing they said. You need to be very authentic. And secondly, you need to be transparent, which is very difficult for many people, because transparency requires you living your life and conducting your business in the open to a certain extent, of course. because secrecy will cause people to become suspicious, and suspicion leads to misinformation. So if you do not tell people the truth, they will create stories to explain what they do know. For instance, if we were saying to people, yeah, we are doing this every week because we are contributing to building the industry and preparing ourselves as the trainers so that in future, when we are asked to facilitate digital online streaming sessions, we are truly masters. If we were saying that, but we are doing something in the background where we're collecting money through the back doors or something like that, that will come out, and when it come out, it shatters even those things that you thought you were good at. So being transparent requires you to share every intimate detail of your life, but of course, it does not demand you to be open to share your secrets. But just make sure that you are transparent. So there's always to a certain point, but people must feel that you are being truthful. So that is one way of sharpening your brand. And the next one you're going to like it, and we all talk about it a lot, and that's networking. Networking is necessary aspect of any brand. I mean, think of it. If you're building a brand, you're appearing on social media, you never show up at conferences, at seminars, at public forums to meet people and let people say, I know you. Oh, is that you? Oh, then they see the real Divesh, right? That they used to read his post on LinkedIn. That takes your brand to another level. So as the saying goes, it is who you know. So this is particularly true when you are developing your brand. So we are saying that this streaming industry is very highly populated. There's just so many people in it. But as feedback to you, I got the official invitation from Potpin as a result of this show to volunteer to be interviewed by them. And then they said, we will also advertise your podcast for free for a certain number of days on the Podbean platform, which attracts about 600,000 podcasters. And that was because of consistency, because of what we do. And I think that is a feedback to us that we ought to send. So sometimes you think you are just wasting your time, but there's gonna get a point where you get recognized, not financially, but in a way of actually positioning yourself. So those are the 4 points that they listed. In fact, about 4, 5, 6: blogging, posting, content marketing, authenticity, transparency, and networking. Any comment? Which ones are you? You can tick the box. I know, Divesh, you can tick the posting and content marketing and blogging. What else?
Sam, I wanted to just add on one aspect as well, and in relation to our focus area, which is the digital online streaming opportunities that we want to share do's and don'ts with. I think one of the aspects that we can also add onto the list is that it falls under being authentic, but the brand should have a voice, and the way you communicate when you're doing your shows, even if it's other advertisement which requires your own presence over and above a textual type of ad that you'd put out, your tone, your communication style, it should reflect your personality, whether it's a formal or informal way, but it should definitely resonate again with your audience, like I said earlier. And then that brand voice should be consistent to maintain that same tone across all the content that you provide, whether it's in the live streams or even in the social media posts that you do. I mean, I'll give you an example where sometimes we're having our colleagues on these shows, and you can even pick up, something is not right. Maybe your day wasn't so good, something happened. You can pick up from the tone. So we would like to say, when you're developing your brand, there should be attention on the voice that you're using in terms of the brand, especially for a radio type platform. that we focusing in on in terms of the digital streaming mastery program as well that we are delivering this module for.
Mm, mm. Indeed, your voice, your tone, it is one of the many attributes of your brand. Absolutely, and that's why training ourselves, developing ourselves consistently, reflecting and giving each other feedback. There's no any other practitioner type of training than what we are doing. I think the impact of this will show itself 5 years to 10 years to come. It's almost like you being a member of Toastmasters, attending every Toastmasters every week and being put through into that impromptu talks and feeling traveled. And one day, boom, you find yourself, you are an authority, you talk with so much command of language, terminology, and vocabulary, which I can attest to the fact that since we started this works in 2020 to where we are today, I can clearly see a distinction between us then, us now, and I can still see where we are heading to. If we had not started Diverge in 2020, I don't know what we will be doing now and where we will be putting ourselves in terms of the passion, the knowledge, the vocabulary, the intentionality, the insights of self. Don't you sometimes get frightened when you think of, wow, we have grown and what will have happened if we have not started? Divesh?
Wouldn't say fear as much as it's curiosity, Sam. I'm interested to see, and I agree with you, we've grown substantially since we started off this journey, and mostly positive. Lots of learnings that we've also had, and of course, it's even enhanced the type of do's and don'ts that we are sharing with the listeners, which also excites me that we can bring something to the party in terms of a skill, in terms of a knowledge, but as we engage and interact with each other, we enhance what we can actually then offer. And I'm really interested to see what the future has, because it's really an opportunity of limitless possibilities.
Mm. And I always give you feedback, Divesh, that I always want to say you are my control, because the attention you pay to these subtleties of what we always say and express and do has been such a beautiful, beautiful exposure for me. And I'm sure we are edifying each other. And I think I'm glad that we took that decision to go on the trainer. We could have just finished that first course and then say we are ready to train. But now we know that knowing the content and knowing how to deliver the content are two different things. Mudla. If you take, for instance, the example of models like Lokotla as well, which was always the foundation of holding conversations. Rabula? We seem to have lost Rabula. And Dadra Mutla, are you there? Okay, cool. I was just affirming what Divesh was saying. I'm curious as well, Divesh, to see.
Are you there? At some stage, I lost voice. You're asking me. I think Sam, where I'm sitting, they take home in terms of what we've done
Prasem,
thus
I'm
so
just
far.
struggling with my network.
Okay, we'll give you chance. Rabula is still on, Dadra Mutla. Yes, Rabula, carry on.
Well, I'll say where I am now in terms of saying where we started today and where we are. It's always refreshing and reminding that yes, diversion is right in terms of substantial growth where we are when we started, and then in terms of saying, well, if I need to guide the next person, am I ready? And I think I'm more than ready when you guided us at the beginning in terms of where we should go, in terms of saying The podcast is a different language, it's a different technology, it's something different for the future. Let's start now. And that a person need to embrace that.
Sure. Thank you so much, Rabula. And it's a work in progress. By the time we reach 40 units, we will have an opportunity also to reflect, because it's really fascinating.
Are we checking out? Because I had a problem with my network.
Yes, you might reflect and as well check out in terms of we are at the same time also reflecting on the journey for ourselves in terms of where we started and where we are now, and what would have happened if we had not really embarked on this train the trainer version of the digital online streaming mastery. Yeah, you can reflect and check out the
No, I think with me, the Lekgotla era. First, we understood the principles and philosophy of Lekgotla as well as the approach. Then we came into this issue of book review. This is where we then introduced ourselves on online radio. And I think now, as you were talking about sharpening the brand, and now we are sharpening our skills in terms of the understanding of online mastery program. I think from where we started up to where we are, we have made a great progress in terms of knowledge enhancement. Very soon we will be expert in online. So for today, my take home is that as we agreed, we need to integrate our personal and professional brand, because if you sacrifice one of them, you won't have a comprehensive brand. And my new insight is the 4 components of branding, the 6 components of branding, which will inform your integrated branding. If you look at blogging, you look at posting, you look at content marketing. If you integrate them, you'll have a comprehensive branding. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Ndatara Mutla. Your final thoughts, Divesh?
Thank you, Sam. For me, as we've mentioned in few of our other modules, we have to step back, have a holistic view in terms of each one of these modules that we're talking about. It's all about planning, but in this specific module, we're saying that there is a value chain in terms of the brand. There's your brand, there's the brand of the channel, the brand of the guest, as well as the expectations in terms of your brand that you've generated for the show, which must be met in terms of the audience. That's my takeaway, Sam. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, colleagues. The just final points to raise is the point around appearance matters. I think that speaks to you as a personal brand, but also your organization. They talk about first impressions. It's very important. You need to rise out of the crowd and then demonstrate have a true reflection of self and dress for success, not to kill, but for success, Rabula. And then, of course, social media, we touch on that, but there are some few pointers there. You need to be constantly monitoring your social media platforms because things can go wrong. And also do your settings in such a way that the security is not breached. Have an objective why you are on social media, not just doing randomly. Promote whatever you put there, and not only you are posting, but other people's posting. It is a tool indeed that you can use to build your brand. As the saying goes, the content is king. So make sure that you share content. You are not stingy with it. And then, of course, don't ignore any mentions. This one, I underline it because a number of times people mention us or tag us and then we don't react and we don't respond. If you see something from somebody that you know, you're very close to, they post something, if you do engagement, you are advancing your own brand. In terms of managing your brand in times of crisis, this is very important. If you're caught up in a bad spot, never burn a bridge. Succumb, but share information to correct whatever information could be shared. Monitor the responses and respond. And then branding personality traits, identify your unique values. We touched on that. Be bold. In other words, drive your brand. Nobody's going to do it for you. Think out of box. Be creative in terms of what you are posting there. Don't just do normal posting. You know, there are certain posts you will see. You can see this person was just not really in the mood of posting, but he just posted or she just posted, and there's no effort and energy that goes into it. So fail, learn, and repeat. So those are the last points I wanted to bring into this module. Thank you so much, colleagues. It was wonderful. I knew it will be this impactful to our listeners and ourselves as well. And we are close to 30. We're going for unit number 29 next week, Tuesday, Conduct 24. And it is about, guess what? Networking as a source. This is going to be quite very interesting. Utilizing networking to source content and guests, building your networking skills. And we're going to look at the course titled Networking Outside the Company. Don't miss it. Tuesday next week, South Africa Standard Time, 1900 hours to 20 hours 30. Thank you so much. That was Commerza Radio Worldwide, the mind, the journey, the destiny. We inform and entertain, develop and educate, empower and support, associate and network. That's the idea. My name is Sam Zimmer. I was joined by colleagues Divesh Motilal, Franz Ramutla, Rabula Mulivane, and our fellow listeners out there. Thank you so much. We appreciate it at all times to have you here. This episode will be available in 24 hours at insightsonlinepodcast.com. Don't miss it. You can also get it at Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify, and many other famous platforms. If you want to be part of the journey and be part of our community, apply for membership at cometa.member.com. cometa.member.com online, and there are about 15 different kind of membership types that you can take there. And of course, check our website, cometa-goc.com. And of course, all these colleagues that I've introduced, they are available on social media platforms, especially LinkedIn. And of course, they will join us next week until we hit the 40 mark. Thank you so much. You take care. Goodbye.
Goodbye, colleagues. Goodbye, listeners. Goodbye, class.
Cheers.